Hi, I'm Dan Grossman, arts editor for Nouveau. I'm here with Tatjana Rebel, activist, poet, and host of the monthly vocab open mic series at the White Rabbit Cabaret. And why don't you tell me a little bit about your own background? Did you grow up in Indy, Tatjana?
I grew up in India. I moved here when I was 2. So I was born in Germany and came to Indy because of Fort Bend. I was raised by my German mother.
Okay.
So I refer to myself as a first generation American.
All right.
And learned a lot about being first generation and a person of color growing up in Indianapolis, which led to my writing and to my activism.
Okay. Tell me something about Vocab Open Mic. It's a place where, according to the Facebook page, art, activism, and community meet. That is to say, Vocab is much more than an open mic, right?
Yes. So when I first started Vocab 12 years ago, I had started off as a poet, and I started doing poetry and singer-songwriter open mics, and I was not well received at all. And when I was given the opportunity to have my own open mic, I wanted to create a space that everyone would feel welcome, especially people that normally don't get recognition in the city. So outside of just singer-songwriter and outside of like the rock scene. And the vision of it now and what I'm doing with it now, I've kind of always had 3 different aspects of myself, where it was like I was a writer, or I was a promoter, or I was an activist. And Vocab is the space where I do all of it now, as opposed to separately for separate people.
And you started out, what, 12 years ago in the Casbah, right?
12 years ago in the Casbah. And it's been to the Casbah, the Wellington, Shoe Fly, and now the White Rabbit.
Okay. I've been to 3 of the vocabs, and each one was different. I love them all, but I have to say the last one, the one on March 13th, was the most spectacular. It featured Tony Sticks, January York, Gabriel Patterson, and Two Black. Why don't you tell me a little bit about each of those performers and how their careers intersect with vocab?
So I will actually say that was the best vocab I've ever had.
Really?
By far.
Okay.
And normally I get really excited and like, yeah, that's a really good one, but this one was, I will actually say the best. I have met individually each person that performed through the years of doing vocab. Each one of them has been a person that has affected my life. Tony Sticks, I remember when he still wasn't 21 and was just trying to he was so hungry, and it was like that first moment when I had somebody that had known about vocab that was just like, just get me on, and I was finally able to get him to perform. And seeing how he's grown, and he's kind of like the end-all be-all of all artists, because he can do everything. January York is, I think, one of the greatest treasures that we have in Indianapolis. Her work is powerful and gets you in your gut. And it's one of the things that I appreciate and has actually inspired me as a writer. Two Black was one of my favorite humans on earth. You will never want to hear that, but it's true. And he is very unapologetic about who he is and honest. And I like to refer to him as the poet's favorite poet. Every line is very intentional. He has researched everything. There's nothing that he'll put in his pieces that won't have backing of research. And then Gabby, she is just a powerhouse. And she's been able to branch out into theater and storytelling, so I'm inspired by her because you just never know what she's going to do. And I was really grateful for them to all be a part of it. That night was just magical because it was like a family reunion, and I hadn't seen a lot of people as opposed to at that show, and it was one of the it was kind of like the who's who of the poetry scene, and who's been in the scene from the beginning. There's a lot of open mics now, and I think a lot of people forget that there's a long history of spoken word in Indianapolis, and it was really nice to be able to bring some of the people that have been pioneers and see a lot of people that I think sometimes get forgotten about or have just like retired. So yeah, that show was the best.
Mm-hmm. You had a recent release of a chapbook, This is America, When They Use Your Words Against You. How did that publication come about?
Today's actually the anniversary of when I found out about it.
Uh-huh.
I had spoken at the March for Our Lives rally at the State
Mm-hmm.
House. It was one of the most pivotal points in my activism, and I was very proud and excited to see where my life was going to go after that. A week later, I found out, actually from Too Black,
Mm-hmm.
that a white supremacist had gotten a hold of a clip from that speech
Mm-hmm.
and made a very long video calling me an anti-white racist, pointing out my personal blog, attacking me, but then also using my words to explain like white supremacy at its utmost.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized a lot about myself and the dangers of being an activist
Mm-hmm.
and being outspoken. And it took me several months, one, just to come back to like reality in a space where I felt safe
Mm-hmm.
in the world. And then I needed to figure out a way to be able to take that moment and create something to let it go.
Okay.
So the chapbook came from that.
Okay. And you had a release at Future Friends Holographic Magic Club. Am I getting that right?
That is correct. We just like to call it Future Friends.
Future Friends. Yeah, I think from now on I will do that. Great place though. And in one of the essays in your chapbook, you touch on some topics that are very necessary to address, but talking about white privilege can't be the most comfortable topic in the world sometimes. Do venues like vocab, which are inclusive and welcoming, allow you to touch on topics like that more easily?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I've been very intentional,
Mm-hmm.
especially with vocab, is creating a space where we can speak freely
Mm-hmm.
and openly and have people that also understand.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard, especially with indie being conservative.
Mm-hmm.
The art scene has a lot of space to be able to be honest, but there's also not a lot of spaces where you can be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely noticed in the art scene that some people actually want to stay away from politics and
Mm-hmm.
racism unless it's February or... So it's one of the things with vocab especially, and I noticed it with like Iconoclast as well, and then like a
Mm-hmm.
couple of the other places where it's like we try to create a culture of that openness to be able to talk about it.
Okay.
Just because it's actually lacking a lot in the city.
Mm-hmm. What's on the horizon for vocab?
A lot of things in the work. The website should hopefully be done in the next few weeks. Never realized how much work goes into creating a website.
Yeah, a lot.
So much
We're
work.
working on it.
It's so much work. But I'm hoping to start a youth program
Mm-hmm.
where I'll be able to take activists and artists as well to come together to teach the youth.
Mm-hmm.
There will also be an all ages open mic that'll be starting.
Okay.
Hopefully by the end this summer. And then I'm going to start doing, having people come in like a speaker series, and then also do some actual trainings that go in depth into talking about white supremacy and like going past just teaching people, but actually
Mm-hmm.
getting people to a point of being activated. April is where we do vocab honors.
Uh-huh.
It's National Poetry Month.
Right.
Last year we honored Cafe Kumba
Okay.
for celebrating their 30th year. So while vocab's been going on for 12 years, we're not the oldest at
Mm-hmm.
all by far. This year we're going to be honoring Tease the Artist, which is an all ages open mic on the first Friday
Mm-hmm.
at Tease Me Cafe, with performances by Eric Saunders, Chantel Massey, and then we're also, I'm so excited about this, there's a gentleman by the name of Billy Tuggle from
Mm-hmm.
Chicago who I've been trying to get for a couple years now, and he's going to be coming down as well. So I'm really excited about that because he does like haiku, which I don't think it's enough credit in the city.
Well, you were
in
trying to
poetry.
get a haiku artist at the last vocab,
I
right?
have been trying to do a haiku battle for all 12 years of vocab.
Uh-huh.
So this is going
I
to
don't
be the
think
first
anybody
step.
came up at that particular
Not a
night,
single
though.
one.
Nobody
but I
took
know
the bait.
haiku will finally be showing up at
All right.
vocab, so I'm very excited
That's
about it.
fantastic.
Yep.
I'd like to see haiku at vocab. That would be interesting. All right. Well, unless you have anything else to add, Tatjana, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. I'm so
Yeah.
glad we got to do this.
Yeah, it was fun.